Hi everyone, Evette Rose here, and welcome to Women in Business Summit. I am so excited, ladies, to have this powerful event here coming together with a very special guest speaker, Kiva Schuler. Kiva, thank you so much for being here with us today.
I am so delighted to be here with you.
So excited. And ladies, for those of you who don't know Kiva, she's the CEO and also the co-founder at the Jai Institute for Parenting. And Kiva is on a mission to end the cycle of childhood abuse trauma. And she's also taking deep inspiration from her own life, where she pulled so much great, amazing experiences, resources, also strategies to help parents to shed their domineering natures and also bond more with their children in a much more beautiful, natural way. Kiva, wow, what a mission you have unpacked for yourself here in this lifetime.
Yes, well, life kind of gave me the mission, right? Isn't that how it works?
Completely, but you just dived right into it and you looked at what did I learn? What did how did I grow from this? And I loved how you dived into this and you looked at it from the perspective of not allowing it to traumatize you, not allowing it to define you, but you're like, I'm going to turn this into an experience and I'm going to tell people what not to do.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's been a journey.
Having a business is like having a child. You go through phases, you go through moments. 1 minute it's the best thing ever. Next minute you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. and it's like
Totally.
you're mom as well. Like
It is
you're
a constant failing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no,
I was
no.
gonna say it's a constant failing forward, just like what needs to be done today? What's the next thing? And then here you are 12 years later, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is this big, amazing, purposeful, impactful organization, mission, team that just it humbles me, quite honestly, to my knees, what's gotten created through all of this.
So you just said there 12 years ago. So tell me, what was your life like 12 years now ago before you started this business? What was it in your life that shaped you and that made you decide, this is what I want to dedicate my time to? Because this business, I mean, this is commitment. This is tremendous energy that's been poured into this. And we don't just do that for just the sake of doing something. We do that with purpose. And I know you personally, I've met you in LA, like you are a woman of purpose. Like you only do things if it makes sense. And, I would love to hear from you. What is it that just got Kiva onto this path? Because it's a very unique business that you have.
It's such a beautiful question. And, without giving you my whole life story, at the time, 12 years ago, I had left. I worked in investment management. I had, the big fancy job and made, significant money before I was 30. And then I had my children 18 months apart because my ex-husband told me that I could leave my corporate job after I had two. So I was like, okay, let's go. I wanted out so badly so that I could just be with them. And they were little and I was home with them. And I just wasn't living up to the bar that I set for myself as a parent. When I was a child, my parents were divorced. My mom is a very ambitious feminist leader, really one of those women from the 1970s and 80s that we should all, bow down to.
Wow.
But because of that, she was, working all the time and really achievement oriented for me, do more, push harder, be the best, win, everything. And then my dad had remarried a very conservative, children are to be seen and not heard, lots of punitive parenting. Well, they had a son who was 7 years younger than me, and I bore witness to what inconsistent, dominant, unfair, spiritually violent, I would say, and sometimes even physically violent parenting did to this little boy who I loved. He was my baby brother. And I remember one day he was being punished. I was probably around 16 years old. So he was maybe 8 or 9. And he had to sit at the dining room table. He wasn't getting up. Little body was slumped over. I could see, I didn't have these words at the time, but I could feel that his spirit was just being diminished and crushed, and he was losing his self-confidence, his creative spark. And those inspiration moments where I said, when I become a parent, I'm whatever it takes to do than this. So then anyway, flash forward all those years, and I can never forget this. Like one day, my 3 4 year old was very fine, and it would get really snarly, and we were going somewhere, and I was like, you have to brush your hair. Well, she did not want any of that. And I was like getting super frustrated. And in a moment of complete unconscious reactivity, I took the brush and I swatted her little tushy and I dropped it. And I was like, oh, I was so horrified that I did this. And I just remember saying to myself, I need to go learn something different. And so I was already a life coach at the time. I'd already kind of had that entrepreneurial spark. I knew I wanted to do something. That moment is what really set me off the path of interviewing some of the biggest conscious parenting experts in the field, and ultimately leading to me to found what is now this really incredible business. We have trained, oh my goodness, parenting coaches all over the world, the Far East, Africa, Australia. We have coaches on in so many countries, and just the ripples of peace that creates, it's pretty mind-blowing.
That's incredible. And so you felt inspired to bring that learnings, those teaching, everything forward, and to apply that to other people's lives. Because what you're working with is, it's such a beautiful area that you're in. You're working with people's lives, you're working with their emotions, you're working with people's future. Because it's such a powerful place to be in, to be able to influence a child's environment and dynamic at such an early age, because that's where they're building their foundation. Like, we're investing into our future as well, and also into the quality of life of that child.
1,000%. I mean, I don't think that there's anyone who would disagree with the truth that children are our future. These children that we're given the privilege of raising, right, while they're with us, which is just a minute, it goes by so fast. They are the ones that are going to solve the very real challenges and problems that we face in humanity. When we school children, right, and I'm going to say this, but I want to just actually take a deep breath here, because I also know that all parents, I mean, all but the smallest percentage of parents love their children more than anything, want desperately to do right by them, want to give them the best path forward. And also, we have these unconscious patterns of yelling, reactivity, threatening, coercing, manipulating, that are simply just kind of ripples from the way we were parented, which is a ripple from the way our parents were parented, and down the generations we go. And so I want to say this with a breath of compassion and self-empathy, and it's okay. It's never too late. Nothing cannot be undone when it comes to children. Even if they're already adults, they love us. They want to be in relationship with us. So that being said, when we unconsciously perpetuate emotional or spiritual harm onto a child by scolding them, yelling at them, making them feel less than, incapable, stupid, right? Why did you do that way? I've told you 5 times. We hear this every day in the world. What happens to that child is they don't stop loving us, they stop loving themselves. And these stories of self-doubt, of limiting beliefs that we have as adults, well, they were perpetuated when we were that child's age. And
Yeah.
so I believe we're not responsible for what happened to us when we were children, but we are responsible for doing the work to become the parent we wish we had. And it's such a beautiful opportunity for self-growth, for learning new skills, for learning to self-regulate our emotions, to communicate clearly, to have values. And the way that children just flourish when they're put into an environment like this, it's mind-blowing. We hear miracle stories every day.
I love this passion that you have with what you're doing. And being a woman in business, I wanted to ask you with this, you know, Because I know what I'm like when I started my business. Like it was go, go, go. It was drive, drive, drive. I was so passionate. Like it was like, everyone get out of my way. I'm busy. I really got maybe a little bit too much into it. I very much stepped into my masculine. And what I
Yeah,
wanted to ask for you, what was your experience starting a business as a woman 12 years
yeah.
ago? Because I find that I'm seeing, yeah, your facial expression quite said a lot there, because I'm seeing there's a very big difference in terms of what it's like for a man to start up a business compared to what it's like for a woman, because now we're kind of like coming to the forefront. We used to be standing in the back, but now we're moving into the front line, also into the spotlight. And I find sometimes it's not either received really well. I mean, there's not really like a manual for us. How do we step into this power?
No.
Like, how do we do that? So how did you do that?
Yeah, I
What
mean, I think
journey like?
at the beginning, I think exactly a lot of people thought I was cute, you know, or like, oh, Kiva's little pet project, you know, oh, Kiva thinks she's starting a business, ha ha, you know,
Yeah.
when are you gonna get a real job? Or feeling a lot of judgment from other moms, right? Who does she think she is? Kind of energy. And it's been a journey, you know. The Jai, this business, I started with a business partner in 2011, and it grew very quickly, pretty rapidly. And then she and I had a terrible business breakup that was as painful as losing a child or going through a divorce. It was awful. And so that happened about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now. And so there was this period of time where I kind of lost my baby. And this passion that you hear in my words, this is my purpose. I now know that it's what I was meant to do. But back then it made me question everything. Well, maybe that's not my purpose. Well, maybe I don't know who I am. What am I supposed to be doing? And I spent 7 years in the like grasping and doing a lot of things and like working all the time and trying to figure this out. And it did have a lot of impact on my relationship at the time, friendships, but I knew I was meant for something big. I've always known that. And so it just gave me this fire of like, I don't care what other people think or say. I know that I'm here to make a difference in the world and to create an epic life for myself. And it looked probably really messy and chaotic and disorganized from the outside. But I think for a lot of women, that is kind of how we create, right? The creative process is messy.
Yeah.
I have failed far more than I have had big successes. You know, I've had a few, but the failures have been sometimes more public, sometimes more, you know, there that you carry those with you. I can say now, you know, I've had Jai back for the last 2 years, and I am so glad that I had those 7 years before that, because I was learning about marketing. I was learning about having a team and managing people. I was learning about financial management. And so now I have a big business, right? A 7-figure business. And finally, I'm like, what do I do with all this time? Like, it took 12 years, but now I'm kind of living the dream where, you know, I'm running a business. I love it. It's so fun. I have the best women that work for me. We have the best team. We're changing people's lives every day. And I don't have things on my calendar. That took 12 years. And so maybe, I don't know if like men can do that faster or not. I just had to figure it out my way. I wasn't gonna do it how anyone else told me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing, Kiva, what you also did was, because this is, you touched on quite a, uh, how can I say it, like a volatile, almost like sensitive button there when you said, when you started the business, and people like, oh, you just look cute. You know, there's this, for me, I found the exact same thing. There was such a demeaning, you know, approach to people around me, including even my ex-husband. And, you know, he's my ex-husband for actually for that many other reasons, of thinking that what I'm doing is a joke and no one would buy that. It's bullshit. And it's funny because this laughter, this humiliation that I was supposed to feel, I actually turned that into fuel. And I was feeding off of that, almost that anger and that, you know, that screw you, I'm going to show you that we can do this. And I think for me, at the end of the day, what would be an ideal world for all of us as women, it would be able to create what we want without having to be challenged and humiliated into our power, because that's actually devaluing who we are as a species. Is devaluing what we are also allowed to have and experience and entitled to, because life is meant to be experienced. And I feel that this entitlement, which we all have to experience life, is just completely ripped away and taken away because of ego, because of how men or other people would perceive us as being, or having to at least be, because we have all these titles, but being business owners is not one of them. And we kind of like had to fight and to carve that out of nothing. And
Yeah,
we're paving the way now as women for our children as well, for females to come in and to also establish themselves in the world.
yeah. I think that, for women, while we're building a business, many of us are also raising children. We're also in partnership, responsible for the
Yeah.
home. I remember I used to be inner seething at my ex-husband. He's a lovely man, but I was like, he just has to like go to work every day, and he would get on a plane on Monday and come back on Thursday. And then he'd be like, I'm going to yoga for 2 hours. And I was like, so yeah, it felt very frustrating. But like you, I was like, oh no, watch me. You think
Yep.
that I can't do this? Watch me. And then it was funny, like the more successful I got and the more money I started to make, and the more it kind of challenged his perception of who I was and what our relationship was supposed to be. Now, the beautiful thing is when you're a self-supporting, empowered woman, I started dating my ex-husband when I was 19. So, it wasn't maybe, the relationship that was going to last my whole life. I am in partnership now with an entrepreneur who's never thought anything less than that I could be the fullest expression of myself, the most empowered. I like had a vision for me that was bigger than I had for
Wow.
myself. So I don't want to diminish this to man, woman. This is a very human dynamic. There were women that were as challenging to my aspirations as some of the men in my life. I think the challenge that women face is we do bear all of this other burden of the emotional labor of the home and the things that need to be done. And then just a dismissiveness in the marketplace around not being taken seriously, which is just at this point silly. Women are starting businesses at 5 times the rate of men. New 7-figure women business owners are being anointed every day, every day. So my feeling is this is silly. Get out of the way or get on board.
I love that. Kiva, tell me, was there a specific female that you really felt inspired by? Who inspired you to be a leader?
I mean, it sounds so trite, but I have to say my mom.
Okay.
When I was just a young girl, we lived a very kind of protected life in Tucson, Arizona. She was married to an attorney, big Jewish family. And my mother had this chutzpah. She tells a story. She went to New York City. She's a journalist. And she went to New York City for a conference when I was just a baby. And she said she got off the plane and she just knew right away she needed to be in New York City. She was going to do whatever it took to get there. Now, this was 1975, right? So this is not a time when women are leaving their families, setting off on their own, leaving a small community to move to Manhattan to start a new life. And for whatever reason, my mother had the audacity and boldness to make what must have been a very scary decision, and she did it, and it was hard. And we've paid the price in many ways, but I can't not admire the grit that it took to succeed, specifically in that industry, which is still so male dominated. And she taught me a lot, being a girl, about, standing up for herself and, not letting them see you cry, which is of course why many of us don't work in corporate. But she really taught me a lot. She's always been my biggest cheerleader. And it just showed me that you don't have to walk the path that other people are walking.
That's probably one of the greatest gifts that a parent can teach a child, and that is not to morph yourself into becoming something that you're not. Find your power right from the start, from the get-go. That is, I'm very happy for you that you had such a awakened mom, basically, from that perspective, to do that.
Yeah.
And what I want to know also
Yeah,
is
I think it also showed me that
no, no,
there's
tell
a
me.
little delay, so we keep
Hey, tell me.
I was just going to say, I think that also I saw the price that she paid, to be in corporate. And so I did
Right.
not want to give up my ambition. I did not want to give up my freedom. I didn't want to give up my right to choose the path of my life. And I also knew I didn't want that. And so that really only leaves being a business owner as an option, because when you work for someone else, by and large, you are going to be restricted income wise, time wise, by their constraints. And so I think for me, becoming an entrepreneur was the both and. It was like, yes, I want the impact and the success like my mom had, but I don't want to pay that price exactly. I'll pay a different price.
Well, while we are here on this topic of being a leader or leadership, the women that inspired you, is this like a characteristic? Is this a trait that you've had your whole life? Or is this something that you learned? How would you describe your journey into stepping into that role?
I mean, it's funny because people that I knew as a young girl will reach out to me now. We've been friends on Facebook for 15 years or something. So they're like, oh my gosh. And they'll say, like, you taught me to ride a bike. I don't know if you remember this, Kiva, but you're the one who taught me to ride a bike. You were always like positive, optimistic person. So I think that there has always been that uh, I'm a relentless optimist. I always think everything is going to work out. I always think that people can have what they want. And sometimes that gets me in trouble, but I think by and large, it served me really well. Leadership is an area that I've really been working on pretty intensely for the last 7 years, because you can't be a successful business owner if you don't learn to lead. And much like I want to dismantle power over structures in parenting, I also want to dismantle power over structures in business. There's not really a model that I had found for a more evolved leadership structure. And so I've really been like deepening my inquiry into, what does leadership look like for me? How does this team run by values? How do we hold each other? Like one of our sayings on our team is, nobody can get in trouble here. And it's true, nobody can get in trouble here. There's no ego in this business. I very much lead from behind. I trust my people. And that's learned. I was, very much like, I can do it all myself. I will do it all myself. If you don't do it like I did it, you're probably not gonna work for me for very long. One of my mentors calls it being a control enthusiast. It doesn't work in a business like this. So that aspect of kind of a more, I would say, feminine leadership style is something I'm actively working on every day. I'm learning still.
How can women who are in business right now step more into that? Because even for me, I'm sometimes finding myself being too much into it or too little in it. Like, and I find that either way, you just keep walking into problems. People push back or people take advantage because they see your kindness as a weakness. And it's like, how did you start to find the balance? Like, where did you find that sweet spot, as we would call it?
Yeah. I mean, the sweet spot can be elusive. It's a moving target.
Right.
I think for me, it's taken a long time to get here, is the first thing that I'll say. I have, because I've been doing this for so long, I, have people that have been working with me for 7 years, 8 years. So there's just a tremendous amount of trust and relationship that's been created so that I feel more and more confident in trusting that they've got it. Everyone on my team must be a leader. So I hire fast and fire fast. If people don't pick up the oars and start rowing and need a lot of hand holding, want to ask a lot of questions, this just isn't the right environment for them. So I've learned to hire people, I pay them very well. I've learned that having that old mindset of how can I get the most for the least amount of what I'm paying is
Gonna
just
work.
not going to work.
No.
So I find people who are excellent at what they do, who are values aligned with the work that we're doing at Jai, and I let them create their role. So, like for example, we trying to think of a recent hire. Um, finding someone who maybe has a great background in copywriting, but they're not satisfied because they're writing for, a fitness magazine. Well, we can give purpose. And so that just lights something up. And then I just give that person a lot of trust, because if they can't operate with the level of trust that I'm giving them, it's just not a fit. So it's almost like I'm just learning to trust first, whereas like the old way would be trust is earned and you have to like be on top of them and micromanage everything. I'm just like, here you go. Here's the baby. There's no mess we can't fix, right? There's no mistake that can't be recovered from. So run with it. And what I found is people flourish in an environment like that. When you trust your people, when you give them a lot of freedom to be leaders, to use their intellect and their expertise to make their business better and pay them really, really well, they don't ever want to leave. Like people all the time on my team will be like, I don't believe I get to work here. Like I never thought something like this could even exist. And I'm like, well, me either. That's why we're making it.
But what you said is so valuable. When you talk also about aligning with people who share your values, how do you find out, for example, that there are people that share the same values as you? Is it in an interview? Is it a process? Do you observe the person? How do you establish that so fast?
Yeah, I think that I'm a very intuitive person. I think that the beauty of being on a spiritual path, like I know you have as well, right? Like there's a lot of inner work that's also gone along with all this business growing and huge spiritual expansions. I can read people really well. I have a very good intuitive sense of people's energy. I can feel when you come on a team call, I can feel if there's ego in the mix. If you're, like we don't really have pushing back on in our team. And when it does happen, we move it away so that it does not disrupt the energy of the container. So I can feel it. And sometimes I'm wrong, right? Like sometimes I'm wrong, Evette. And then you just have to own that, right? Like,
Right.
and I just learned to just very cleanly say to people, thank you so much. It's not a fit. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to coach them. I don't need to tell them what they did wrong. I just very gently, it's not a fit. Let's talk about how to, offboard you. So I think I trust my gut and instinct a lot and my intuition. And when I'm wrong, I just quickly, course correct.
I love what you said there, because you keep it very clean, very, just down to the point. Because at the end of the day, something that I noticed, because as women, we're empaths. We love to be compassionate. We love to care. We love to listen. We love to connect. And it's very important for us as women, generally speaking. And what I find sometimes is a lot of women who are in business, they bring those characteristics into the business, and they end up trying to befriend the people that they work with instead of just keeping it as a business transaction. Because at the end of the day, one thing that I've learned is that it's very hard to mix business with friendship. There's just not really a lot of space for both these two concepts to exist together.
especially as a leader, I think that there are people, I mean, I love the people that I work with. I love working with them, co-working, making things, collaborating, and we've become friendly over time. And the business is a business, and my role as the leader is to do whatever will amplify and enrich our mission and help. I mean, at the end of the day, every time someone enrolls in our coach training program, at least one child's life gets better. So that's my North Star. That's what pulls me forward. Things do get messy sometimes, but I'm not here for friendships. I self-source significance, validation, love, appreciation. I'm not looking to receive those things from the business or from the people who work for me. That creates kind of a business codependency where you have all these entanglements and the whole thing is just like, ugh. So as the leader, you have to keep yourself very clean and make sure that you're not using the business as a way to, prove your self-worth or validate your intellect. These are traps that will really harm the business. The business is an entity that provides a value to a person for money, period. It's not your personal, therapy session.
That is so true because one thing when I was speaking to someone else and she actually told me that in her her private life she actually felt very lonely, she felt very isolated, and she started to see her staff and her employees as friends, as people that she can hang out with, and it kind of like started to blur the lines where it became a power struggle between her and the staff, because they were like, well, oh, she sees me as an equal, maybe I am an equal, maybe I can challenge a little bit, and it becomes an ego power struggle, not from her perspective as a leader, but from these people that's trying to match that, and it's like it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not your business's job to meet your personal needs. Those, I mean, and I've learned this the hard way. And you can still be in close relationship with the people that you work with. I very much am, but there's a holding back, right? There's a like when I'm on a call, it's what's the agenda? What are we working on? Sometimes my COO has to remind me that I should make some time for small talk and let people share. And I'm like, okay, I will.
Because you're down
I'm
to
like, I like to get things done.
I am the same. I totally get that. And sometimes people can see it as you being, a bit of a hard ass and being too mean or too rude or too cold, cut and dry. And I'm like, well, no, I'm in business mode right now. If we want to have a friendship, we can have a glass of wine afterwards and not talk about work. But we need to put these into two separate boxes. I find that the two just don't go together very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to keep them separate and to have, I think also that keeps you working all the time. If your personal relationships are the people that you work with, when are you decompressing? When are you letting some steam off? When are you just like hanging out and watching a movie with people in your life or going for a walk with your dogs and a friend? It would become for me like too much.
And that's true. Now, I wanted to ask you also, while we talk about, challenges that we sometimes have as women being in business, what would you say is the most significant barrier to feminine leadership? Is there something that you've seen as being quite a generalized barrier for women out there?
Yeah, I think that many, not all women, have a difficult time creating offers from their passion for money. There seems to be a challenge for many women that I've coached over the years or just seen in business of having a very defined offering for their business that meets a specific need for a specific person. And I think that's because it is too entangled with that person's sense of self-worth or too much about their journey. I don't know why women still have a hard time asking for money. It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But money is the lifeblood of business, and we have to get right with it if we want to succeed, and value our products and services appropriately. I'm also someone who's very much an advocate for right pricing. I get a little prickly when I, hear things in the marketplace costing so much money. No judgment. It's just not my value system. And so I would rather figure out how to sell more of something that's more accessible to more people. That actually has proven to be a much more scalable business model for me, than charging $20,000 for someone to coach with me. I tried that. It just didn't work for me. It never sat right in my body for me. And so I think then that can also create sort of like, well, they're doing it that way, and what's wrong with me? And I should. Well, maybe that's just not your model. For us,
Right.
our model is, enrolling people every day into our coach training program. It's worth 10 times what people pay for it, which gives me so much like just comfort as a woman, and it feels compassionate and kind. People can enroll in our program if they're in Nigeria, or where there's different currencies, and it's still a fair price. That's given me more confidence to market and build the business. It's a values match for me. So I think that was a very long-winded saying, long-winded way of saying, like, get right with your money stuff and also know what's right for you and really stand firmly in it.
I love what you said there, Kiva. You said there was a values alignment for me. And I think what I'm also hearing what you're saying is that if you don't know yourself, your business is not going to have a strong foundation to stand on, because at the end of the day, your business is an expression of your self-worth. It's an expression of your boundaries. It's an expression of your values and how you value yourself.
1000% yes. Yeah.
Where did tell me?
I don't
Tell
remember. You go.
I'm sorry. No, I wanted to keep staying on this path where we are, because this is so valuable. How did you find or define what your values were for your business? Because how did you bring that together? Because that's ultimately why you are a success with your business, amongst other things as well. But this plays a fundamentally big role.
Yeah. I think a lot of trial and error, a lot of doing it. There's this actually, Steve, my partner, and I were just talking about this quote. Oh shoot, I'm going to mess it up. Something like, good decisions come from making bad decisions.
Right.
Or no, experience comes from bad decisions. I don't know, I'm messing it up, but you get my point. I did a lot of things wrong. I was really struggled for a long time to figure it out. I tried to be like other people. Even this business jive, what I went through with my old business partner was such a illuminating experience for me around boundaries and what I would tolerate and what was not tolerable to me as a person. And so, this is one of the things I always tell women business owners is you have to get over your fear of failing. You're going to fail all the time, but that's what informs you. That's what teaches you. It's so valuable, because not this, not this, not this, not this, not this is what finally gets you to where you want to go.
And talk about failure. What has been your most significant barrier in your career? I'm sure there were many, but was there one that really stood out for you where you were like, this teaching sank in, it hit home?
Yeah, I would probably have to say integrity. Integrity is not something that I really used to have when I was young, because I pretty much raised myself. I told you my mom worked all the time. Nobody taught me right from wrong. I very much wanted to keep peace in the home and not make her mad. And so I learned to lie from a very young age. I was very manipulative in my 20s and as a young woman in my career. And even, as I was coming into my 30s. And that chicken comes home to roost. If you're somebody who's not living an integrity, values driven life, eventually the jig is going to be up. And that house of cards came falling down. I remember I was at my spiritual teacher's house one day when everything was like, I call it the great unraveling, right? Like my best friend had passed away. My ex-husband and I were in the midst of just a very volatile breakup. It was awful. And I was in her kitchen and I was just a mess. I was sobbing, snot, and just like felt like I was going to die. And I remember looking at her and I said, I am not a good person. I hate myself. And she said, I know, and I love you. And that moment just was like, just broke down all the barriers, all the defenses, all the stories about who I was and who I thought I had to be and why I thought I needed to act this way in the world. And I started to be a person of integrity. And I literally, it's almost like, I don't know if you remember that Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar, where he can't lie. That's kind of
Yes.
what my life literally cannot tell a lie. I'm like, so it shifted something in me. And ever since then, my life has just been like one miracle after another miracle. I value my integrity so much now, more than anything in my life other than my children. It is my most precious thing because I trust it impeccably. And what's also good about that is I don't care what anybody else thinks about it because I know it. Like I know my word. I know I intend to do right. And so what other people think about my business or what I'm doing in my life or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's literally meaningless.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and just so raw because, I think you touched again on a very, very important topic there because this is something that I think we all have struggled with when it comes to integrity. It doesn't necessarily have to be with people in our outer world, but it can be integrity within ourselves, telling ourselves a story of I want, but we're not really truly listening. What is it in our heart that we want? Because we tend to also intellectualize our lives quite a lot, and we build this life that's detached from emotion, and then we make very decisions that's just not in alignment with who we really truly are within. And it sounds like your experience just brought birth to bringing all of this together for you. And
Yeah.
what has that journey been like for you, being on that path of just authentic, just being raw, just being honest? Like, I know you said so many things went really well, went how can I say, it went right, but did you also wobble? Did other things break down as a result of that?
I mean, I went through a period in my life, this time that I was just pointing to, where everything fell away. I went from living in a, beautiful house on 5 acres with a barn and horses, and my perfect little family looked so pretty from the outside, to, living in a small condo with my 2 kids. I joke that we did get a house. I once I got out of that situation, the business started to make money pretty quickly. So we were owning this little condo for like 18 months, but my son's legs were like literally like growing out of his bedroom. It was so tiny. I would like measure dish soap so that I didn't have to go to the store sooner to buy, dish detergent. Like that's how real things were financially. It was a really challenging time, but it was so formative. And so I think from then, I think what happens, I don't know if maybe any of you watching can relate to this. When you go through an experience in your life where everything that you were afraid of happening happens, and the house burns down, spiritually speaking, it almost makes you fearless because you're like, well, I did it. Like, I'm still here. I've still got this body. I've still got this brain. I still have these children. I'm healthy. And so from that point on, things did pretty, dramatically and consistently, COVID happened and things happened that were setbacks. But by and large, from that point forward, it's been pretty miraculous, quite honestly. Like, it's sometimes I shake my head because I'm not quite sure how I got here. and how all of these things happened. I'm like, how the frick is this my life? But it is.
And you're owning that now? Can you really say that you're stepping into it? You're claiming it?
Yeah, we bought this, my partner and I during COVID bought a beach house. We're here in Massachusetts on the Cape. And I was so uncomfortable there. I mean, it is ridiculously beautiful. It's on the water. You see the Cape Cod. There's a lighthouse in front. And for the first 3 months, sleeping, I had a pretty rough childhood, and all this stuff happening. In the first few months, I was so uncomfortable there. I was like, I kept saying Steve's house, Steve's house, and he's like Kiva, it's our house. What do you like? And I realized that I had an upper limit, that I wasn't allowing myself the beauty and abundance of this experience. I was judging it. I was like, what are people going to think about me? I had this real awakening of this next level of expansion, which is like, of course I'm living in a beach house. And of course, I have this partner, and of course I have this big business. Like, why wouldn't I? I've worked so hard and done, and the inner work that I've done far surpasses the effort of like building marketing funnels or hiring a team. Like, none of that would have worked if I hadn't gone through what I went in here to allow that to happen. And so, yes, to answer your question, it's funny.
So this is also like a recent integration for you where you really had to go like, just, receive that.
Yeah, own it. Yeah, less than a year. Less than a year.
What was your greatest fear if you did actually receive it? Like, what was it the fear of losing it again? Because there's a
No,
pattern. Because in the beginning you said, is this really
maybe.
real? We're going to lose it all, because all your worst
Yeah.
fears came true. So do you feel this was just another fear of the self-fulfilling prophecy taking place, or?
Yeah, that's very intuitive, probably. I think it sometimes still feels almost too good to be true, and waiting for the other shoe to drop or to lose it all again. I'm not scared of that. I know that I would be fine. So that's the difference is, before I was scared of it. Now I'm not, but I'm sure that there's, just knowing my life history, that of course there's going to be an underlying current of, this too will go away. And I will work on that.
And but what I'm hearing is that you became resilient in that moment. You found your power because everything went to shit. Like, just to
Yeah.
say it for what it was, it just
Yes.
collapsed. And you
Yes,
survived, you made
exactly.
it. And you actually became stronger because of that. Because that's how we build resilience, is when we learn that, well, I'm actually okay. The worst did happen and I'm now okay. Which means that if it ever had to happen again, you know that you would stand up so much stronger within that. And what I'm hearing
Yeah.
is maybe, and this is something for me, this is still a journey for me as well. Let me just be absolutely upfront. And what I'm also still learning is that I have to learn to allow myself to emotionally have a certain connection to something, because sometimes we don't want to have that connection, because if we have it, then the loss of it or the disappointment of not having it is so much stronger. But I'm also seeing now in my life that I'm robbing myself of having 1,000 times more richer experience if I just allow myself to embrace the depth of how something or someone or an experience can make me feel. Because when you compare the loss that you have to the experience that you have, it's like, at the end of the day, the loss you can overcome, but that experience you can never have. You can't recreate that in the same way again. So for me, it's like loss kind of like manifests itself in a repetitive same way. We have our 5 stages of grief, we have the powerlessness, we have the vulnerability, we have the victim state, then we have the anger, and then we have the overcompensation, and then we have the surrender phase, and then life goes on. But I find that the way that we heal from trauma, it's not as, it doesn't have the same weight as what the experience could have had. So for me, at the end of the day, having been through quite a few moments and cycles, I'm like, I know what's going to happen if this all just falls apart. I know what that world looks like, but I don't know what the world looks like. if I don't embrace this experience? So for me, this is where I'm at right now, where I'm like, screw it, I know what to do if everything goes to shit. I know how to deal with that. But I want to dive into this experience. And that's what you're doing now. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. It's like I don't actually think I'm in control of any of it. So might as well just ride the current and see where it takes us. Do the work, keep serving people beautifully, delivering on our word. And it's all miracles. It really, if you choose to see it that way, like even the hard stuff, even the setbacks, the failures, they're so beautiful. It's such a My son is going through, he has his first relationship. And I said,
Oh,
yeah, it's so, oh my God, they're the cutest. It's ridiculous. And and they've been away at school together for the last 4 months. So yesterday this program ended. So they've been together 24/7, and
wow.
she lives, maybe 4 or 5 hours away. And I said,
Oh,
honey, you just have to keep your heart open to whatever the feeling is. Because if you don't learn that this pain that you're feeling can't actually hurt you, you're going to be afraid of it. And if you're afraid of it, you'll hold yourself back from love. You'll hold yourself back from experiences. You'll hold yourself back from your
yeah.
truth. And so, this pain you're feeling, it's so important that you feel it and that you learn that it can't hurt you. It's actually harmless. It's uncomfortable, doesn't feel good, but you are going to be amazing. And I think that that's such a powerful lesson for all of us. We can't live our lives being afraid of something that is just an energy pattern, is just chemicals in our bodies. Our health is going to be fine. We're going to be fine.
That's so true. I love that powerful message, because that message that you gave to him, we can apply in all aspects of our lives, regardless of who you are, wherever it is that you're at or that you're finding yourselves right now. And I can't thank you enough for this beautiful, powerful conversation, learnings, and experiences. Like, I felt like I emotionally also went through these dips and cracks and the success with you. And is there one last message that you would love to please share with any of the women that's out there right now, that's like just feeling a little bit stagnant in their career?
Yeah. I mean, I would say a couple of things. First of all, I would say hold your dreams dear. Be careful who you share your precious ideas with, because the world is full of naysayers, people who believe that anything other than conforming to the status quo is dangerous or is a challenge to them. And so just they don't need to know. When people ask about the business that aren't in my vibration, I'm just like, it's paying the bills. It's fine. I don't need to tell them all the things. So hold your dreams dear is number one. And then on the other side of that, find your people. You only need one or maybe two people who really truly believe in you, who are going to like hold a bigger vision for you than you will hold for yourself. They will help you energetically and give you clarity to move forward, give you that inspiration to move forward. And then just make sure that you're selling something that is of value to the people that you serve. That it has a tangible outcome. People buy solutions to problems. And I think sometimes as business owners, we can lose sight of that. We think our idea is the greatest, best idea. Well, what does your buyer think about that? How is it going to change their life? Because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the people that we serve and transform through the work that we create in the world.
Amen to that. I love it. Kiva, thank you so much for your light. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your time and your energy, your wisdom. Thank you for sharing these raw and powerful life experiences, because at the end of the day, what you're also showing us is that it's okay to be human and to become successful at the same time. That's life. Let's accept that. Let's embrace that. And life can actually become much easier the more we allow ourselves to just be organic on that path.
So true.
That's what I'm really like. If I had like a 5-second elevator speech, and if someone had to ask me, what was your interview with Kiva like? I'll be like, that's it. Kiva, thank you so much. And thank you for being a light worker. We need more movers and shakers and beautiful women out there that can just gracefully step into their power. And thank you so much for showing us how to exactly do that. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Mwah.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the ladies. And until next time, be the light that you are.